Welcome to Code to Cloud, the podcast from American Eagle Managed Cloud Services. I'm Tom McDonald, and we're talking today about software delivery. If you were to get a piece of software, say 20 years ago, probably coming in this big giant box, about 5 pounds, have a bunch of CDs in it. Behind that software probably took a very long time to build, up to a year to 18 months. But bring on 20 years of advancements in broadband technology such as virtualization and then eventually the cloud, and software is being delivered in an entirely different way today. Chances are the software you're using is coming through a web browser. If not, you can download it in seconds. And the process behind that is something called DevOps. And with me today to talk about DevOps is Paul Kocan, our Vice President of Managed Cloud Services, and a man who knows DevOps inside and out. He's got the books on his shelf. He's got the DevOps t-shirts, the hats, and I believe one of his children actually has the middle name DevOps, if I'm not mistaken.
That's true.
Yeah. So, Paul, tell me, what is DevOps?
DevOps is, it depends what you mean.
Well,
Tom, what do you mean by DevOps?
Well, I know some people it's a process, some people it's a philosophy. What is it relative to managed cloud services?
To manage cloud services, it's a culture, it's a series, a set of tools and a set of capabilities that allow us to deploy faster, more efficiently, and improve uptime, improve security, improve cost management, general continuous improvement of your technical environment.
That's a pretty tall order for a process. Tell me why it's important when it comes to managing a cloud environment.
I think that what people have discovered is that cloud without DevOps is leaving value on the table. The cloud is designed for a DevOps culture. It has native to it the tool sets, the observability, the pipelining. It's all ready to go to help you develop faster, cleaner, safer. So then when you're in the cloud, what you want to be able to do is make sure that you're actualizing that potential, right? So you got the potential for greatness in the cloud. Now you have to overlay the skill sets, the people who have the right culture. That is, and what I mean by the right culture is the attitude that business value is the name of the game, and business value is deploying fast and deploying safe and keeping high uptime, right? So what we bring to the table is like a partnership with companies to understand what's valuable to them, understand what their goals are, and then provide a operating model that allows them to deploy on their schedules with the frequency that makes sense for their business, with the risk that they're prepared to handle, right?
Off the top, we talked about DevOps being essentially a process by which software developers and IT operations folks can learn to complement each other,
right?
To deliver software as quick as possible. Why is that a challenge? What is some of the inherent conflict or incompatibilities that required a process like DevOps?
Yeah, so there's several of them. One of them is just this, what they call the core chronic conflict. And that is that the dev teams want to get features into production and the operations team want stability. They're accountable for uptime. The developers are responsibility for feature enhancements. Mm-hmm. And this creates a conflict between them because once the software is deployed into production, it becomes the operations team's problem. So the operations has a natural motivation to prevent change because change is associated with outages, with lack of availability, right? So there's a tight correlation there. So they're resistant to change. They want lots of gates and basically they give pushback and resistance because it becomes their problem. They want to make sure that it's safe. So DevOps, what it does is it solves the core chronic conflict by having the two teams work together and build reliability way into the process. They call this shifting left. So if you think of your software delivery, software development lifecycle, your SDLC is going from left, from an idea, to right, which is actually, delighting your customers in production. You want to take those reliability and security and other non-functional requirements and shift them all the way left into the SDLC and design them into the process, and then make that automated, make the changes small and understandable, because Do you recall, I know that you do, what it was like in the waterfall days?
Oh, yeah.
When you were talking about shifting. So why don't you tell me what you remember about the software development in the waterfall days, the good old days?
Well, there was, what I remember most, it was the ripple effect,
Yeah.
right? If you wanted to make one change of piece of code, you had to dig around and find out what the implications were going to be.
Right. So you had to kind of get all of your requirements up front.
Right. Yeah.
And the closer you got to D-Day, that deployment day, the more you're putting everything at risk every time you make a change.
Oh, sure.
And what ends up happening, it becomes like you take all your requirements at the beginning, but you pretend they're not going to change. There's a little bit of myth making, right? But they keep changing. People keep adding stuff to the release. And by the time you get to I remember at one company I worked at, a broker dealer, they have a clearing shop with a mainframe, and they had a yearly release, right? It's called GMI.
Yeah.
The yearly release. By the time they were ready for the release, they had a year's worth of business changes they need. And you would implement that change in production, and it could be days.
Yeah, and God forbid the final will have a bug in it.
Right. And it always was always late. They're always pushing the deployments because they were never ready.
So we're way ahead of that now.
Right.
We've been able to deliver software in a timely manner to keep up with demands of the market. You talked about
the core chronic conflict.
Okay. You talked about the core chronic conflict.
Yes.
What role does a cloud service provider have in coming into an organization like we will at American Eagle Managed Cloud Services and solving that? What do we do to solve a problem that the two parties can't?
What's clear is that it's our culture and our practices. We have developed over 30 years. Our primary business was deploying code. That's what we had to get really good at to stay in business. Deploying code, deploying features on the internet. We are an internet-facing company from Jump Street from the very beginning, and our value that we offer to customers is fast changes in safely, right? Hosting some of the biggest, most complex websites and not having them go down during Super Bowl events and elections and all these critical business events, making sure that they're scaled out. They're not vulnerable to hackers. So that whole mindset, that set of practices that we've developed and the teams we've built up around that have an application-centric mindset. So that's what makes us different. We can go to a company and we snap right into their SDLC, their software development lifecycle, because we understand software development and software deployment and operations so well.
So we're not just bringing DevOps to an organization. We're bringing American Eagle DevOps to an organization.
Yes.
That is different. How is it different?
I think what's different is that we've seen so much over time that we can adapt to almost any environment, right? So we understand the principles so well that it almost doesn't matter what tools you give us. We can make them do what needs to be done. It doesn't matter what internal processes you have. We can be compliant because we understand what's really important about getting code deployed safely and quickly. Right?
So tools will change, but the fact that we've got guys in the data center on that team that have been there for 8 to 10 years.
Yeah.
And that's the difference maker is what you're saying.
Yes. And then not just 8 to 10 years of almost daily releases, right? Almost daily setting up new environments for new customers, setting up new applications, deploying to new applications, adopting the latest and greatest, deploying in different clouds, deploying in different environments. It allows us just to have such a breadth of experience. We found that we can help anybody's team move faster and safer.
That's interesting because you go back to the yearly releases. Yeah, we did that once a year. And even if you're releasing on a more frequent basis, you're not doing it daily, right? You don't have that daily experience. We do.
Right.
I see what you were saying. So we're a team that does when it comes in an organization with the daily experience. That means a lot.
Right.
Yeah. I'm a CEO. I'm thinking about bringing in a managed cloud service provider. How do I know my DevOps is broken?
That's a good question. I think the signs that you need some help in the DevOps area is when, are you missing deadlines? Is there chaos in your development teams? Is it difficult to get modifications made late in the game? Is that causing stress? Is there a lot of anxiety in the way code is made? Is there always danger of missing dates? Are you missing dates? Are there outages after your releases? Does it take a long time to fix problems when you see them, or is it a short time?
Yeah.
Those are the types of things you want to look at.
So it's not just bringing in DevOps that seems to be able to solve that, but it's experienced DevOps.
Yes.
Can you speak to how we would solve that problem?
Yeah. So, it's all about, and I hate to say it, it's all about that SDLC, right? It's all about optimizing the way you deliver code. So that involves your tool chain, everything from the development environment that your development team uses, to your project management tools, to your knowledge bases, and what's very important, what's very key technical practice.
Yeah, what's the secret sauce that we get from 30 years of doing this?
The secret sauce would be understanding how to leverage good code practices with proper test case management, with the automation it takes to move the software through the environments, the development, your UAT, their staging, and then into production safely.
So when I think of managed cloud services, I'm thinking a bunch of really smart people with monitors watching my environment, who might know where to look for problems. What you're talking about as DevOps is an entirely different facet of supporting a business organization, right? You're actually not only just monitoring and acting as a knock for their cloud stack, but you're helping them grow and be more competitive in the market.
Exactly. Right. So the name of the game there is revenue, right? When you're delighting your customers and your customers need new technical features to meet their business needs, when you're delighting your customers, you're making more money.
So when I was in software development, I would find these engineers who would absolutely be brilliant at code, but you sit down and you try to explain business requirements to them, right? It wasn't their forte. They just wanted to know, what is that button supposed to do? Are you saying right now that the folks that are actually managing these environments, they've got to know not just the code and the environments, but they got to know business too?
Yeah, that is part of, DevOps. It's understanding the stakeholders' goals, right? For example, one of our large customers, success was measured in how many tons of steel they're selling. That's what the end goal is. And then the features and the technology and the deployments are all around how to make that shopping experience better to move more product. So
and that our folks are in on those discussions.
Our folks are in on those discussions, how a feature is going to impact the business and which features are most important, right? And which ones get out the door the fastest.
Yeah. So building on the idea that being application-centric is the optimal way to control cost, can you talk to me about the role DevOps plays, or at least a managed cloud service provider like us would play in controlling costs during the development cycle without inhibiting it?
Yes. Historically, developers tended not to be concerned very much about cost. Their primary concern is to get features out the door. That's what they get paid for. Lines of code, getting features out the door. That's where the pressure is. Where costs traditionally did end up in the operations bucket. They kind of had to be responsible for costs. So the DevOps, what we bring to the table is that awareness of costs, that understanding of the expertise in the cloud at the details level of what different services cost, which allows developers to make intelligent decisions. They have the quick information they need to make good decisions about how to deploy and develop, as well as the visibility of how much their cost is going up and what decisions they've made to drive that cost up. So that allows communication, collaboration to optimize costs as you go and properly allocated as well, because sometimes investments just need to be made to make deadlines, but at least it's an intelligent.
So during the development process, we're keeping an eye on costs so the developers can develop. Or like the offensive line for the quarterback.
Right. So we're keeping an eye on the costs, and then we're giving expert feedback of why those costs are what they are, and if we have any recommendations on how to optimize them.
So today, the majority of businesses today are using either a hybrid or a multi-cloud environment, right? One or two public cloud providers, they've got some data in a private cloud they want to keep private. Very complicated to manage. What is the role of DevOps in managing that complexity?
Well, I think the answer would be the right DevOps and making sure that you have the right skill sets. It's difficult enough to get experts in one cloud or one technology, let alone two or three. So having a partner who's got that in-house and does it kind of all day long is going to differentiate your abilities, because it just brings to the table the capabilities to unify that multi cloud environment and get the value that you expect out of each one.
Yeah. So you talked about the right DevOps. Experience matters. Can you give us an example where we went into a particular organization that had the wrong type of support?
Recently, we had an interesting customer. They were on another data, on-premise data center provider, and they had a third-party development team, and their internal operations team wasn't happy with the availability. They had a lot of outages, and the business wasn't happy with the velocity of change. As a matter of fact, the changes were so disruptive that they kept holding off until, again, that the changes build up to where they have these massive releases, which cause a lot of downtime.
Defeats the whole purpose of doing.
Right.
Yeah.
So the way we solved that problem is we took over the whole thing, we migrated it to Azure, and then we implemented a good DevOps practice. And the way we had to handle it with them was, first we had to bring stability to the site. That's a standard DevOps practice. Was first you bring stability, get the observability in place, get the right pipelines in place, and then we're able to prioritize releases and changes and get them back on track. And they were very happy with the results.
What was the gap between why we were able to bring stability and the previous provider?
I mean, I think it's the 30 years of experience and taking responsibility for the entire stack from the code all the way down to the cloud.
That's what we talk about, right? Full stack.
Yeah. Application centric.
Yeah. Great. Paul, thank you. This has been really informative. I feel like I finally understand a little bit more about why you're so excited about DevOps.
Always a pleasure. Thanks for having me on, Tom.
Thanks, Paul. And thanks for joining Code to Cloud. I'm Tom McDonald. We'll see you again soon.